You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Welcome into a very, very special edition of Locked On Buffs. I'm your co-host, John Garcia Jr. And no, that's not Kevin Borba. Next to me, that is none other than Danny O'Neal, an elite uncommitted quarterback in the class of 2024. We're going to get an exclusive interview with Danny on all things Colorado, recruiting in general, what it's like to have a state championship ring, and so very much more. Danny, how we doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You've had an incredibly busy run here over the last few weeks and months, much like the elite quarterbacks in the class of 2024. So let's start right there, Danny. Give us sort of the New Year visit plan. I know you were at Colorado in mid-January. You've since hit a couple of other schools as well. What has the flight itineraries been looking like?
Yeah, like you said, I was out in middle of January, made it out to Boulder for an unofficial, and then for these last 2 weekends, I was at Michigan State and Miami, and just checking out spring ball and just checking out the programs in general.
Yeah, so obviously this time of year, spring ball is really paramount. You get that sort of up close sample of what you want to see from your potential future program. So with Colorado specifically, Danny, what was it like for that first impression, not only of Boulder, but I think compared to all the other schools chasing you right now, a totally new coaching staff, overhauled roster, kind of that whole newness, if you will, relative to Colorado. What was it like out there?
It definitely felt like it was a special place. Like you said, it was really new. And I think when I got out there, the coaching staff, like, it wasn't even fully assembled yet. But I know Coach Lewis was out there for about 3 or 4 weeks before I ended up going out there for a visit. And, you know, he's a special coach. He's a winner. I really think that all the coaches there are. That's their mission and that's their goal. And they really make that known and make everyone feel that when they're around them.
Understood. What was it like for coaches like that? I mean, Sean Lewis was a head coach there in the group of five to make that move to go coach under Deion Sanders. I guess how much you mentioned it there, how much belief is a part of really their entire pitch, starting, of course, at the top with Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Prime, he's told me and he's basically told the world on social media that they're going to win and they're going to win now. And, you know, I believe it. I think a lot of people do, a lot of people don't, but, you know, the people that are in the building there, you know, they believe it, and that's really all that matters. And as long as you have a belief and you're fighting every day to get better, I mean, sky's the limit.
Individually for you, Danny, what was the conversation like with Sanders or Sean Lewis or anyone else really while you were there as to, you know, why you're one of the really few quarterbacks this coaching staff has sort of attached itself to with a scholarship offer and continued recruitment thereafter? Like, why are you one of their guys per se?
I think it's just because I've become a proven winner in high school. I'm at one of the top programs in the Midwest and 23-3 as a starter with a state championship. So I'm surrounded by great players and I play great competition week in and week out. And I think that caught their eye a little bit. And just being able to have success on Friday nights has really been able to carry my recruitment. And it's just been special to get to know all those guys like Coach Prime and Coach Lewis. And, you know, Coach Lewis said that he knew me when he was at Kent State, but he didn't want to, you know, like recruit me just because he knew that I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to win a championship. And he knew that from before we even got to talking, and after we started talking together and getting to know each other. That's something that me and him and both have in common, and everyone else in that building, is that we want to win a national championship.
Very good. You've already won your fair share of championships. You mentioned it before. We should have said it at the top. Look, this is one of the best quarterback recruits in the class of 2024 out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Cathedral High School, of course. Danny O'Neal joining Locked On Buffs today. You're modest there, 23-3 as a starter, but how about these numbers? Over 2,500 passing yards each of the last couple of seasons, nearly almost 100 total touchdowns, passing and running, in addition to all of the winning. That state title came back during your sophomore campaign. What has all of that brought you beyond recruiting? How much experience do you truly have to your name, and how does that help you inevitably, or in the future, make this transition from high school ball, of course, to the Power 5 somewhere?
I think the program that we're running at Cathedral, it's hands down the best in the state. They're preparing us for college, in school, on the football team. Everything about Cathedral is preparing me for the next level. The offense we're running is a college level offense. We do a lot of advanced stuff that not a lot of people do, and identifying coverages and calling out blitzes and identifying stuff pre-snap to check out of plays and to check into ones that are going to work. That's something that Coach Peeble, is my head coach, has allowed me to do, and I'm very, really thankful for that, just because it's preparing me for the next level, and it's helping us succeed on Friday nights.
Danny O'Neal joining us here on the show. Of course, that's come with a bunch of scholarship offers. We're going to get to a lot of the different options that you have beyond Colorado after the midway point of the show, but I want to touch on the Buffs a couple more times here before we make that transition. Danny, before the show started rolling here, you told me another trip to Boulder has been locked in, and it's pretty darn soon. Can you update the folks on your plans there?
Yeah, I'm heading out to Boulder again this Saturday and Sunday for first day of spring practice.
Beautiful. So a return trip, second unofficial visit to Boulder under the Coach Prime regime. So you mentioned a lot of the individual recruiting pitches and sort of like-mindedness that's going down between Prime and Lewis and yourself, among others. What makes this trip different for you? What do you want to see? Obviously, for spring practice, you mentioned it, that brings a different energy, a different set of circumstances for your eyeballs, Danny. So what are you looking to take in over the weekend?
Just being able to see how everyone coaches. Honestly, that's a big thing for me. Personally, I want to go to college. I want to win. I want to go, undefeated in the regular season, win a national championship, win a Heisman, all that stuff that, everyone dreams about as a kid. So I want to see if, the coaches at Colorado can push me to do those things and to win together, to bring in a great 2024 class, and just, be one of the next great dynasties in college football.
Okay, so a couple things you said there made me think of a couple follow-up questions for the timeline of your recruitment. We're going to dig into them after a quick break and a word for our sponsor. So sit tight, Danny. We'll jump back and expand and zoom out on this thing and what looks like it's going to be one of the more fun quarterback recruitments to track in the class of 2024. But before we move on with Danny, do want to remind the folks watching that this show is brought to you by FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is absolutely free, and there's never been a better time for folks to jump in. The midway point of the NBA season is now behind us. It's a great time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's a stack, as the kids say. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to points scored or even threes drained in a given NBA game. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's bring the man of the hour back onto the show with us here, Danny O'Neil, elite class of 2024, quarterback recruit. Okay, so we got the Colorado fix out of the way. Prime, Lewis, the whole crew out west doing a good job. We're going to get you back on campus this weekend in conjunction with the first spring practice. But Colorado was not alone in pursuing your talents. You mentioned it earlier, state champion, 23-3 as a starter, Midwest kid. So naturally, a lot of schools in that part of the country are coming after you. Louisville, Kentucky, Northwestern, Illinois, among them. And then you also taken a couple of trips recently. I think I saw you were at Miami a couple weekends ago and Michigan State as well. Let's focus on those two teams rocking some green, Danny. Let's start with the Hurricanes. A couple days there in Coral Gables, new offensive coordinator under Mario Cristobal. What was it like at the U, and what are the Canes' chances at this point?
It was really everything I expected. It's a beautiful place. It's warm. They're going to throw the ball around a lot with Coach Dawson, and that's kind of where their interest in me came from, as he was recruiting me pretty heavy when he was at Houston. And just because of that, it kind of translated over to once he got the new job. So it's definitely a very cool and interesting school to hear from. And, you know, it's going to be exciting to see where that relationship goes, and my relationship with Coach Cristobal too.
Yeah, I was going to say he's kind of like Prime, known as a head coach recruiter and a great one. What about Mario Cristobal makes him sort of have that sort of reputation?
Honestly, when I met with him, he just made Miami feel like home. And, you know, it was like 30 degrees back home when I was down there. So I'm kind of glad that, you know, it was, 85 and sunny. But I mean, he made the place feel like home and made sure that I was well taken care of, me and my mom both, and that I was definitely wanted there, and just that I was going to be able to come in and compete early, which is a big thing, and it's definitely something that I think I can do.
Yeah, great part of the answer there, Danny. How much are you looking at the quarterback situations at these programs? Because I'm assuming with so many schools sort of in it right now, it's all over the place, right? You probably have some grad transfers and some portal guys at some schools and a lot of young talent at other schools. How much are you keeping an eye on these ever fluid quarterback situations at any school you look at?
Yeah, on one hand, you want to take a look at it and see where you're going to stack up, and take an honest look and tell yourself, like, yeah, I can go in and I can compete as a freshman here. But on the other hand, you got to always know that there's a transfer portal, and if there's a kid that's already set in stone as one of the top guys in college football, I mean, of course, the coach is going to take him if he's interested in coming. So, the quarterback room changes, every 6 months probably.
Yeah.
And it's just something that you got to keep an eye on. But at the same time, you just got to be honest with yourself and know that if a coach is offering you, they think you can come compete in that room. So why not, bet on yourself?
Yeah, and something that you haven't been afraid to do really from the jump. I read a story on SB Live about you today where you threw a football in mass at 2 years old with an ND logo there on it, where your dad, of course, wrestled. So, yeah, confidence, even in any setting there, not an issue for Danny O'Neil. Let's talk Michigan State, another recent visit. I think the most recent visit that you've taken. What was it like up there in East Lansing with Mel Tucker's program?
Went up there for their first spring practice. I've known Coach Johnson for a long time. Their OC, and we've had a relationship for probably 2 years now, and he was one of the first coaches that was recruiting me. So it was nice to finally get up there, and really we saw practice, saw the facilities, saw what the facilities are going to look like in a few months. And, it's definitely an exciting time to be a Spartan. And then after practice, I ended up, talking with Coach Johnson for about an hour to an hour and a half, just talking ball. And, it was cool to just, sit down and kind of talk back and forth about things. And I think he was impressed with how much I knew and my football IQ just from the experience that I've been able to, play a lot of football the past few years. And I think he liked that about me. So, the Spartans are definitely a team in the mix.
Danny O'Neil joining us here on Locked On Buffs. How are you going to figure this thing out? We've mentioned so many great schools again: Colorado, Miami, Illinois, Michigan State, Kentucky, Louisville, Northwestern. How do you start to take the next couple of steps in the recruiting process? Because you gave me a little hint earlier and said you want to help build the 24 class to whatever school you end up committing to, which tells me the timeline is probably going to be pretty accelerated here going forward. So how do you, Danny, start to take that next step?
I think these spring visits are gonna, be a big part in that, and seeing how all these coaches from all these different schools are gonna coach me. And then obviously I'm taking a few things with me to every visit, and it's seeing can I come in early and compete, being honest with myself, and then am I going to play for coaches that have my back? Am I going to get a good education? And then am I going to be in a stable coaching environment where I'm committed to the guy that I'm going to play for? I'm not going to commit to someone and then he's going to leave right away. So that's kind of the few things that I've used to narrow down some schools, and it's definitely helped me a lot. And I think, if anyone else is going through this process, that's something to look at, those few things, and that can really help and narrow down the process. But every school has their things that they're going to offer, and no one's going to be perfect per se, but it's going to be where do you fit in the best, and where are you going to be, loved and coached up and be able to make a difference.
Absolutely. Now, are there any other plans developing with any other visits? We know Colorado is coming up this weekend. Anything else already on the calendar for you?
I will be going to Illinois and Northwestern for sure. And I think that's it, but I might be missing one.
Understood. And then maybe some official visits at some point in the summer, or could you come to a decision sooner than that?
I'm looking to make a decision in May or June, so maybe taking a few in those first few weekends of June.
Beautiful. And again, folks, this is one of the best quarterbacks in the class of 2024, Danny, but we've talked about your experience, your numbers, what some of these schools value with the full body of work. But give me the phone booth sample. Give me the flash sample. If we turn on your highlights, or anybody watching turns on your highlights, what are we going to see physically from Danny O'Neil's game?
I think my biggest trait isn't anything physical, but it's really my football IQ. Being able to check our offense into whatever play it is that we need to get into to be successful. And then obviously I like to think of myself as accurate and tough, and I can extend plays with my athleticism. So I think you're really going to get the full package out of me, and I think I'm going to be one of those guys that hopefully can take whatever team it is to the national championship, and that's my main goal.
We saw earlier in that SB Live article I mentioned, you look up to Peyton Manning, former #1 pick in the draft, #1 high school QB coming out. So let me ask you, Danny, straight up, who's the top quarterback in the class of 2024?
We have a really loaded class, honestly. A lot of my buddies are some of the top guys in the country, but honestly, I think that I have all the tools to be the top guy, and I think that's going to come out eventually. So
it always does, Danny. Well, we can't thank you enough for joining the Locked On Buffs podcast. Anything else that people need to know about Danny O'Neil going forward as one of the top QBs on the market?
No, sir.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for joining us, and safe travels. We'll see you around the bend.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
This has been the latest edition of the Locked On Buffs podcast. Come join us next time for your daily fix on all things Colorado.